Let me tell you about a remarkable journey that changed the life of a man named Khalid in ways he could never have anticipated. It all started on a seemingly ordinary Wednesday morning when Khalid woke up early, as he often did, to prepare for a business trip. He carefully packed his briefcase with important documents and made his way to the airport. His destination was New York, where a critical meeting awaited him. As an executive of a large company, such trips were routine for Khalid. However, this particular journey was destined to be unlike any other he had ever taken. The flight to New York went smoothly, and soon Khalid found himself behind the wheel of a rental car, navigating the bustling streets of Manhattan. His mind was preoccupied with the presentation he was set to deliver in just a few hours. He mentally reviewed each slide, each argument he planned to make to seal the deal. But then, something unexpected happened. Khalid felt a sharp, searing pain in his chest, as if 1,000 needles were piercing through him all at once. At first, he tried to brush it off, attributing it to the stress of travel. But the pain only grew worse. His vision started to blur, and his arms felt increasingly weak. With the last ounce of consciousness he could muster, Khalid managed to pull the car over to the side of the road. The world around him began to fade to black, and he was convinced that he was dying. It was as if he were floating, completely free from the weight of his physical body. Looking down, he saw something surreal. His own lifeless form slumped in the driver's seat. Paramedics arrived on the scene quickly, opening the car door and beginning resuscitation efforts. Khalid wanted to shout, to let them know he was still there, but no sound escaped him. Then, he noticed a light. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before, a brilliant white, intense yet gentle, and incredibly welcoming. Khalid felt an irresistible pull toward it. As he drew closer, he heard a voice. It was deep, resonant, and oddly familiar, though he was certain he had never heard it before. "Come," the voice called, addressing Khalid by name. With no control over his movements, Khalid was drawn into a tunnel of light, leaving behind the chaotic scene of his rescue. He emerged in a place that defies any earthly description. It was an expansive field of light where colors he didn't even know existed danced in perfect harmony. The peace that washed over Khalid in that moment was indescribable. All of the burdens of worldly concerns, work pressures, social expectations, simply melted away. And then a presence appeared before him. It was Allah, but not as Khalid had pictured during his daily prayers. The voice of Allah resonated not just around Khalid, but within him, as if every part of his being vibrated with the words. "My son," Allah said, "you have lived your life in pursuit of what you believe to be the truth, but there is much more for you to learn." Before Khalid's consciousness, scenes from his life began to unfold. He saw himself as a teenager, embarking on his first pilgrimage to Mecca. He saw himself as an adult, building a successful career while always keeping his faith as a cornerstone of his existence. But then, Allah revealed something that deeply unsettled Khalid. He saw moments when he had chosen professional success over helping someone in need. He saw times when he had judged others for not adhering to the principles he deemed correct. He saw a spiritual arrogance within himself that he hadn't even realized he carried. True faith, Allah told him, is not found in rituals or rules, but in the love you dedicate to every living being, in the compassion you show to those who suffer, and in the kindness you offer without expecting anything in return. He realized that despite his devotion, he had strayed from the true essence of following Allah's path. Tears, though not physical, flowed through Khalid's being. When he looked back at his Muslim community in his mind's eye, they seemed so distant, trapped in limited interpretations of a truth that he now understood to be far broader and deeper. At that moment, Khalid knew his life would never be the same. The revelation he received transcended the Islam he had known. It was a call to a higher spirituality, a deeper connection with the divine. As this understanding took root within him, Khalid felt himself being pulled back. The light began to fade, and Allah's voice grew distant. Remember, were Allah's final words, love is the true essence of faith. Nay. In the blink of an eye, Khalid found himself back in his body. The chest pain had subsided, but a new kind of pain, a pain of spiritual transformation, had taken its place. He opened his eyes to see doctors and nurses surrounding him, celebrating his return to life. But Khalid knew that the man who awoke in that hospital bed was not the same one who had collapsed in the car hours earlier. His journey of transformation had only just begun, and he could scarcely imagine the challenges and revelations that lay ahead. Returning to life after such a profound near-death experience was like waking up in an entirely new world for Khalid. The doctors called it a miracle that he had survived such a severe heart attack, but for him, the real miracle and the real challenge was just starting. In the initial days at the hospital, Khalid felt torn between two realities. On one side was the tangible world of the hospital room, filled with mechanical sounds, the smell of antiseptic, and the constant comings and goings of nurses and doctors. On the other was the vivid memory of his encounter with Allah, so real and impactful that it made the physical world around him seem like a faint shadow of the truth he had witnessed. Khalid attempted to share his experience with his family when they visited. His wife, Amira, held his hand with tears in her eyes as he described the light, Allah's voice, and the profound revelations he had received. But he could see a mix of relief at seeing him alive and concern in her expression. His children exchanged confused glances, unsure of how to respond. Maybe it's just the effect of the medications, Habi, Amira suggested gently, stroking his hand. But Khalid knew it wasn't. When Khalid was finally discharged from the hospital, he hoped to find comfort and understanding within his Muslim community. After all, he had undergone a deeply spiritual experience, a direct encounter with Allah. Surely, they would be amazed and eager to hear more. But he couldn't have been more mistaken. On the first Friday after his release, Khalid attended the mosque for prayers. The familiar call of the adhan, which had always brought him peace and reverence, now felt strangely hollow compared to the voice he had heard during his experience. He entered the mosque and was greeted with warm hugs and expressions of joy for his recovery. However, when he began to recount what had happened, the smiles turned to looks of confusion and in some cases outright disapproval. "Brother," said Imam Abdullah, placing a hand on Khalid's shoulder, "Allah has given us the Quran as a guide. We must be careful with visions and experiences that may lead us astray from the straight path." These words, though delivered gently, struck Khalid like a blow to the stomach. He had expected that, of all people, the Imam would grasp the depth of what he had experienced. Instead, it felt as though the Imam was suggesting that Khalid's encounter was, at best, an illusion, and at worst, a temptation from Shaitan. In the days and weeks that followed, Khalid found himself increasingly isolated. Friends who once sought his advice now avoided his gaze. Colleagues who had heard about his miracle seemed uneasy whenever he mentioned anything related to spirituality. Even at home, tension began to grow. Amira did her best to support him, but Khalid could sense her concern every time he spoke about his experience. Daily prayers, which had once been a source of peace and connection for him, now felt like a frustrating exercise. The words he recited seemed empty compared to the direct communication he had shared with Allah. The rituals that once brought comfort now felt limited, insufficient to express the vastness of divine love he had encountered. Khalid began to question everything. The rules and prohibitions that once appeared so clear and significant now felt trivial in the face of the universal love Allah had shown him. This constant questioning plunged Khalid into a state of confusion and spiritual anguish. He knew he couldn't deny or forget what he had experienced, yet he didn't know how to integrate this new understanding into his life and faith. Desperate for guidance, Khalid sought out Imam Abdullah again, hoping he could help reconcile this experience with the teachings of Islam. But their conversation only deepened Khalid's sense of isolation. "My son," the Imam said, his voice heavy with concern, "we must be grateful that Allah has brought you back to us. But we must also be cautious of experiences that may lead us away from the straight path. The Quran and Sunnah are our infallible guides. Anything beyond that may be a temptation or a test of our faith." Leaving the Imam's office, Khalid felt more lost than ever. How could something so transformative, something that filled him with such love and understanding, be considered a temptation? How could he ignore an experience that seemed to reveal a deeper truth about Allah and His creation? At that moment, Khalid realized he was embarking on a solitary journey, a journey to reconcile what he knew in his heart to be true with the faith that had shaped his entire life. It was a quest to find a new sense of purpose and connection in a world that suddenly seemed much smaller and more limited than he had ever imagined. As he walked home that night, Khalid gazed up at the starry sky, feeling a mix of awe and profound loneliness. He knew his search for answers was only beginning, and the path ahead would be challenging and solitary. But deep within, he also knew he couldn't turn back. The truth he had experienced was too immense to ignore, even if it meant questioning everything he thought he knew about faith, religion, and Allah himself. After weeks of isolation and internal conflict, Khalid felt like a castaway adrift in a sea of uncertainties. His family, though loving, couldn't fully grasp the depth of his transformation. His Muslim community, once a source of comfort and belonging, now felt distant and inaccessible. It was during this time of profound spiritual solitude that the universe, or perhaps Allah in His infinite wisdom, presented Khalid with a new path. It all began on a quiet Saturday afternoon when Khalid decided to take a walk through a local park to clear his mind. As he wandered aimlessly, he noticed a small group of people sitting in a circle under a large tree. They appeared to be meditating or engaged in some kind of deep discussion. Something about the scene drew Khalid in, an unexplainable energy. He approached hesitantly, not wanting to intrude. A middle-aged woman with a warm smile noticed him and invited him to join them. "We're just a group of seekers," she explained. "We share our spiritual journeys, regardless of our religious backgrounds." Nanahira. Initially, Khalid felt uneasy. But something inside him, perhaps the same voice he had heard during his near-death experience, urged him to stay and listen. In the hours that followed, Khalid heard stories that resonated deeply with his soul. There was a former Catholic priest who spoke of finding God in nature, a Buddhist woman who described her journey of self-discovery through meditation, and a young atheist who found meaning in community service. What struck Khalid most was that despite their diverse beliefs and practices, they all spoke of a connection to something greater, a universal love that transcended dogmas and rituals. It mirrored exactly what Khalid had experienced in his encounter with Allah. When it was his turn to speak, Khalid felt a lump in his throat. But as he looked at the kind, welcoming faces around him, the words began to flow. He shared his near-death experience, his encounter with Allah, and the subsequent crisis of faith he was facing. To his surprise, there was no judgment, only understanding and empathy. "What you experienced," said an elderly man with bright eyes, "is what mystics and saints of all religions have spoken of throughout the centuries. It's the heart of spirituality, beyond any specific doctrine. These words were like a balm to Khalid's wounded soul. For the first time since his experience, he felt truly heard and understood. In the following meetings with this group, Khalid learned about various spiritual practices and philosophies. He tried meditation, which reminded him of the peace he had felt in Allah's presence. He participated in healing rituals that connected him to a universal energy he recognized as the same one he had experienced during his near-death encounter. The most significant lesson for Khalid, however, was about compassion and unconditional love. He saw how people of different beliefs could come together in a space of mutual respect and understanding. He realized that true spirituality isn't confined to a specific religion, but manifests in the love we show for one another and for the world around us. This newfound understanding prompted Khalid to reflect on his own Islamic faith. He began to see the Quran and the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in a new light. Passages about compassion, mercy, and the unity of creation took on deeper meaning. He realized that Islam, in its purest essence, spoke precisely of this universal love he was now experiencing. However, this new perspective didn't come without challenges. There were moments when Khalid felt guilty, as if he were betraying his faith by exploring other spiritual traditions. But then he remembered Allah's words during his experience. True faith is in the love you dedicate to every living being. Gradually, Khalid began to integrate these new insights into his Islamic practice. His prayers became more profound, not merely a recitation of memorized words, but a true communion with the divine. Zakat, the obligatory charity, transformed into an expression of universal love, not just a religious duty. Surprisingly, this spiritual openness affected other aspects of Khalid's life as well. At work, he started to see his colleagues and clients not as means to an end, but as divine beings on their own journeys. At home, his relationship with Amira and his children deepened as he practiced compassionate listening and unconditional love. Of course, not everything was smooth sailing. Some members of Khalid's Muslim community remained skeptical about his new spiritual approach. As Khalid continued on this journey, he began to understand that true faith isn't something rigid or limited, but a living, constantly evolving force. It was a delicate dance between tradition and personal experience, between the known and the mystery. And in this dance, Khalid was finally finding the peace and connection his heart had longed for. After months of spiritual exploration and personal growth, Khalid felt it was time to face one of the greatest challenges of his journey, returning to his Muslim community. This wasn't out of obligation, but from a genuine desire to share the truths he had discovered, and perhaps build a bridge between his new understanding and his faith of origin. With a heavy but determined heart, Khalid decided to visit the mosque on a Friday for congregational prayer. As he entered the familiar space, Khalid was immediately enveloped by the sounds and aromas that had once brought him so much comfort. The call to prayer echoed through the walls, and for a moment, a wave of nostalgia washed over him. Many faces turned as he walked in, some with surprise, others with curiosity. Khalid had been away for so long that his presence caused a small stir. Imam Abdullah, who had previously expressed concern about Khalid's visions, greeted him with a cautious nod. After the prayer, Khalid gathered his courage and asked to speak to the congregation. The imam hesitated but eventually agreed, perhaps out of curiosity or a sense of pastoral duty. When Khalid stood up to speak, he felt all eyes on him, some welcoming, others skeptical, and some clearly hostile. "Brothers and sisters," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "I know many of you have been wondering about my absence and the changes I've experienced. Today, I want to share with you what I've learned on my spiritual journey." He spoke about his near-death experience, his encounter with Allah, and the revelations he received. He explained how this experience led him to question not the existence of Allah or the truth of Islam, but the limited understanding of them. Allah showed me that the true essence of Islam and of all spirituality is universal love and compassion, Khalid said. Our practice should not be limited to rituals and rules, but should expand to embrace all of creation with love. Oh, I see. As Khalid spoke, he could see reactions forming on the faces around him. Some looked intrigued, their eyes shining with a new understanding. Others seemed confused, trying to reconcile his words with their traditional beliefs. And some, unfortunately, showed clear signs of disapproval and even anger. One of the community elders, Abu Bakr, stood up abruptly. "This is bid'ah," he exclaimed, using the term for religious innovation, often seen as heresy in Islam. "Are you suggesting we abandon the teachings of the Prophet because of a vision?" His words cut through the air like a knife, and Khalid felt the weight of judgment fall upon him. But surprisingly, he didn't feel anger or fear. Instead, he felt a deep compassion for Abu Bakr and for all who struggled to understand. "Dear brother," Khalid replied calmly, "I'm not suggesting we abandon anything. I'm proposing that we deepen our understanding. Didn't Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, teach us that Islam is fundamentally about mercy and compassion?" He then cited several hadiths and verses from the Quran that spoke of love, mercy, and the unity of all creation. He explained how his experience didn't contradict Islam, but actually illuminated its deeper meaning. The debate that followed was intense. Some voices rose in Khalid's support, sharing their own struggles to reconcile the letter of the law with the spirit of faith. Others expressed concern that such interpretations could lead to a relaxation of religious duties. Imam Abdullah, who had remained silent until then, finally spoke. "Brothers and sisters," he said, his voice calm but firm, "our faith has always been a balance between tradition and personal reflection. Perhaps we should consider our brother's words not as a threat, but as an invitation to deepen our own understanding." His words brought a moment of reflective pause to the congregation. Although Khalid could see that many were still not convinced, he felt that a small opening had been created. In the days and weeks that followed, Khalid faced a mix of reactions. Some community members began to seek him out privately, sharing their own doubts and spiritual searches. Others openly avoided him, treating him as if he were a threat to their faith. The internal conflict Khalid felt was intense. On one hand, he was deeply grateful for the truth he had experienced and couldn't deny it. On the other, the rejection from a community that had been his spiritual family for so long was painful. But amid this turmoil, he remembered the words he had heard during his near-death experience. Love is the true essence of faith. Khalid realized that his role wasn't to convince everyone to accept his perspective, but to live this truth as best he could. He decided to remain connected to the community, albeit in a different way. Khalid continued to participate in prayers, but he also began to organize small study and reflection groups, open to anyone who wanted to explore deeper dimensions of spirituality. This decision to stay and face the discomfort, rather than simply walking away, proved to be one of the greatest challenges and, at the same time, one of the most rewarding experiences of his spiritual journey. Khalid was learning in practice the true meaning of unconditional love and compassion, even in the face of rejection and misunderstanding. The journey that began with Khalid's near-death experience led him down paths he could never have imagined. After facing rejection from his Muslim community and exploring new spiritual dimensions, he felt a deep calling to do something more, something that could truly make a difference in people's lives. That's how the idea of a community center was born. Khalid wanted to create a space where people of all beliefs, or no belief at all, could come together, share their experiences, and find mutual support in their spiritual journeys. A place where the compassion and universal love he had experienced could be lived out in practice. With the savings of a lifetime, amounting to around $30,000, and the reluctant support of his family, Khalid rented a modest space in the city center. The first weeks were challenging. Often, he would sit alone in the empty hall, questioning whether he had made a colossal mistake. But something inside him, that same voice he had heard during his experience, told him to persevere. Slowly, people began to show up. First, it was some of the friends Khalid had made on his journey of spiritual exploration. Then came curious individuals attracted by the posters they had spread around the city, announcing discussions about spirituality, meditation, and emotional support. One night, a young Muslim woman timidly entered. She had heard about Khalid at the mosque, and although she had been warned to stay away, something drew her in. She shared her struggle to reconcile her faith with her questions about sexuality and gender identity. At that moment, Khalid realized how necessary this safe space was for exploration and acceptance. Over time, their small group grew and diversified. There were Christians questioning their faith, Buddhists seeking a more socially engaged practice, atheists curious about spiritual experiences, and Muslims like Khalid seeking a deeper understanding of their faith. They organized meditation sessions, story-sharing circles, and even community actions to help those in need. Each activity was an opportunity to put into practice the universal love and compassion Khalid had experienced. One of the most memorable moments for Khalid was when they organized an interfaith dinner during Ramadan. They invited people of all religions to share the meal, breaking the fast together. Seeing Jews, Christians, Hindus, and others come together to share a Muslim tradition was a powerful demonstration of unity and diversity. Of course, not everything was easy. They faced criticism from conservative religious groups who accused them of promoting syncretism and diluting traditions. Some even called them a cult. These accusations hurt, especially when they came from Khalid's former Muslim community. But for every critical voice, there were many more of gratitude and support. People would come to them to say how the center had changed their lives, how they had found peace and purpose through the activities. One of the biggest surprises for Khalid came from his own family. Initially skeptical and concerned, they began to see the positive changes the center was bringing, not only to others but to Khalid himself. Amira, who had previously struggled to understand his new perspective, began to participate in the meetings. Seeing her heart open to new possibilities was one of the greatest joys Khalid experienced. His children, who were initially confused and a bit embarrassed by the changes in their father, started bringing friends to the center's events. They told Khalid they were proud of the work he was doing, and that it had inspired them to be more open and compassionate in their own lives. As the months passed, Khalid began to see a real transformation happening, not just in others, but in himself. The experience of creating and nurturing this community was teaching him profound lessons about love, acceptance, and the true nature of spirituality. He realized that true faith isn't about rigidly adhering to a set of beliefs or practices, but about living with an open heart, ready to love and serve everyone. Khalid understood that Allah, in His infinite wisdom and mercy, manifests in countless ways, and that our task is not to judge or limit these manifestations, but to embrace them with love and curiosity. One day, as Khalid watched a diverse group of people chatting animatedly after a meditation session, he was overcome with a wave of gratitude. He realized that his near-death experience hadn't been just for him. It was a gift that allowed him to create this space of healing and transformation for so many others. In that moment, Khalid felt a deep peace. He understood that although his journey had begun with an intense personal experience, its true purpose was much greater. It was about building bridges, healing divisions, and reminding people of our fundamental unity, regardless of our superficial differences. Looking to the future, Khalid knows there is still much work to be done. The world remains full of divisions, fear, and misunderstanding. But every life touched, every heart opened in their little center, is a light of hope. Deep in his being, Khalid knows that this is how we change the world, one heart at a time, with love, compassion, and a faith that transcends all barriers. If this story of transformation and spiritual discovery has touched you, don't keep this feeling to yourself. Share this light with others. Give a like to this video so more people can discover this message of universal love and compassion. Your comments are precious. Share your own experiences or reflections on spirituality and community in the comments below. Each word can be a seed of inspiration for someone. And if you wish to continue this journey of spiritual exploration with us, subscribe to the channel. Together, we can create a virtual community that reflects the spirit of the community center described in this story. Each subscription is another step toward a more united and compassionate world. Remember, just as Khalid discovered, each of us has the power to make a difference. Your like, comment, and subscription can be the beginning of your own journey of transformation. Let's build bridges of understanding and love, one click at a time.